Commander Lyrelai Stardancer stood on the bridge of her warship, looking out at the stars through the crystal windows. She had lived for 847 years, and in all that time, no species had ever challenged the Valthara. Her people ruled the galaxy with wisdom and strength that came from thousands of years of evolution. The Valthara were tall and graceful, with pointed ears and silver hair that seemed to catch starlight. Their technology was beyond anything other species could imagine. Their warriors lived for centuries, gaining skills that shorter-lived beings could never match. When they spoke, other races listened. When they commanded, others obeyed. Today was different. Strange ships had entered Valthara space without permission. The vessels looked crude and ugly compared to the elegant designs of her people. They were made of simple metal and basic materials. No artistic beauty, no advanced crystals, just functional boxes flying through space. "Commander," said her second officer, "the alien ships are responding to our message." "Put them on screen," Lyrelai ordered. The image showed a small room inside, one of the foreign ships. 3 beings sat at a table. They looked almost like Valthara, but wrong somehow. Their ears were round, not pointed. Their hair was dark brown and black, not silver. Their skin was darker, weathered by something stronger than starlight. Most shocking of all, they looked young, but Lyrelai could sense they were already adults. "I'm Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the human exploration vessel Freedom," said the center figure. "We come in peace to make contact with your people." Lyrelai studied the human carefully. The being called Lisa looked confident, but there was something else in her eyes, something Lyrelai had never seen before in first contact situations. The human was not afraid, but she was also not trying to impress anyone. She simply waited. "I am Commander Lyrelai Stardancer of the Valthara Defense Fleet," she replied. "You have entered our territory without permission. State your purpose." "We are explorers," said another human, a female with lighter skin and brown hair who introduced herself as Dr. Maya Johnson. "Our species has recently developed faster-than-light travel. We seek to learn about other civilizations and share knowledge." Lyrelai almost laughed. Recently developed? The Valthara had been traveling between stars for over 10,000 years. These humans were children playing with toys they barely understood. "How long has your species been traveling in space?" she asked. "About 500 years," Lisa answered, without shame. 500 years. Lyrelai was older than their entire space program. She decided to be generous. These humans seemed harmless enough, if primitive. "You will turn your ships around and leave this sector immediately," she commanded. "This is Valthara space. Your kind is not welcome here." Something changed in the humans' faces. The confidence remained, but now there was something harder underneath it. "We respect your claim to this territory," Lisa said slowly. "But we have colonies in the next system that need supplies. We need passage through this area." "Impossible," Lyrelai stated. "No inferior species may establish colonies in sectors adjacent to Valthara space. You will abandon these illegal settlements and depart." "These are not illegal settlements," said the third human who wore a military uniform. "Lieutenant Amy Turner, tactical officer. We established those colonies in unclaimed space according to galactic law." Lyrelai felt a moment of surprise. These humans knew about galactic law? They had seemed so primitive, yet they spoke of legal claims and territorial rights. "Galactic law recognizes only civilized species," she explained patiently. "Your people have been traveling space for only 5 centuries. You lack the experience and wisdom to govern star systems." "Who decides what makes a species civilized?" Maya asked. The question caught Lyrelai off guard. In her long life, no one had ever asked such a thing. The answer was obvious. The Valthara decided, along with the other ancient races. They had earned that right through age and accomplishment. "We do," she answered. "And if we disagree?" Lisa asked. Lyrelai felt her patience wearing thin. These humans were like children questioning why they could not play with dangerous weapons. "Then you will learn why the Valthara have ruled the galaxy for millennia," she said coldly. The humans looked at each other. Something passed between them without words. Lyrelai had seen this in other species, but never so quickly or smoothly. It was almost like the communication her own people shared, but different somehow. "We understand," Lisa said finally. We would prefer to resolve this peacefully. Perhaps we could discuss terms for safe passage? We only need to cross this sector twice a month. There are no terms, Lyrelai replied. Leave now or be removed. Amy Turner leaned forward slightly. Commander, with respect, we have studied your people's history. You are honorable warriors. Surely there is a way to solve this without bloodshed. Studied their history. How had these primitive beings learned about Valthara culture? The commander felt the first small twinge of unease. You have 1 hour to begin your departure, she announced and cut the transmission. Her second officer moved closer. Commander, should we prepare for battle? Lyrelai considered this. 3 small ships against her fleet of 12 advanced warships. It would hardly be a battle at all. Maintain ready status, she ordered. These humans will see reason once they understand our power. But as the hour passed, the human ships did not move. They held position at the edge of Valthara space, neither advancing nor retreating, just waiting. When the deadline expired, Lyrelai opened communications again. This is your final warning, she broadcast. Depart immediately or face the consequences. Lisa's face appeared on screen again. She looked sad but determined. Commander, we cannot abandon our people. If you insist on forcing us to leave, we will have to defend ourselves. Lyrelai felt genuine amazement. These beings with their crude ships and short lives thought they could fight the Valthara? It was almost tragic. So be it, she said, and gave the order to attack. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. The human ships moved in patterns Lyrelai had never seen before. They did not fight like civilized beings, with honor and formal tactics. Instead, they scattered in all directions, regrouped unexpectedly, and used the asteroid field in ways that defied military logic. When it ended, 2 human ships were damaged but still functional. They had managed to escape into the asteroid field where Valthara ships could not safely follow. The 3rd human ship was captured, but when Lyrelai's people boarded it, they found it empty except for automated systems and a recorded message. From Lisa Rodriguez, Commander Stardancer, the recording said, we truly hope this could be resolved peacefully. We will remember that the Valthara chose violence over discussion. We will not forget. Lyrelai stared at the empty bridge of the human ship. Something was wrong. The battle had been too easy, but also too hard. These humans should have been destroyed completely, but somehow 2 of their ships had survived. They had fought with desperate courage, but also with careful planning. Most disturbing of all, they had spoken as if this was not an ending, but a beginning. For the first time in her long life, Commander Lyrelai Stardancer felt uncertain about what would happen next. Worker Warrior Clicked moved through the tunnels of the hive ship with perfect efficiency. Every step was calculated. Every movement had purpose. Like all members of the Zithak Collective, Clicked shared thoughts with millions of others through the Queen Mind. Individual thinking was unknown. Individual desire was impossible. The collective had existed for over 50,000 years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds by overwhelming their enemies with numbers and perfect coordination. No species could match their unity. When one Zithak died, the knowledge lived on in the hive mind. When one discovered something new, all knew it instantly. Queen Mind Zakth processed information from 10 million warriors across 40 star systems. Reports flowed through the network like blood through veins. Most were routine, planets being prepared for colonization, resources being harvested, enemy species being eliminated. But today, something new entered the data stream. Strange ships in Sector 77 Alpha, unknown design, unknown species. The Queen Mind focused attention on the scout reports. 3 vessels, medium size, metal, construction. Simple, but functional. Inside were beings called humans. They looked weak, soft skin, no natural weapons, no shell or carapace for protection. Most interesting, they appeared to be individuals. Each one seemed to think separately. Each one made different decisions. It was inefficient beyond belief. Investigate, the Queen Mind commanded through the network. Battle Group 17 moved toward the human ships. 500 Zethak vessels, each carrying 1,000 warriors. Against 3 small ships of confused individuals, it would not even qualify as a battle. The lead Zithak ship transmitted the standard message. Unknown vessels, you have entered collective space. Submit for processing or be destroyed. The response came from the largest human ship. This is Colonel Kate Mitchell of the Colonial Defense Force. We are aware we have entered your territory. We request safe passage to evacuate our colonies in the Tau Ceti system. Evacuate colonies? The Queen Mind had no record of any colonies in that system. The collective had been planning to expand there next year. No colonies exist in Tau Ceti, the Zithak commander replied. You are mistaken. Colonel, said another voice, this is Dr. Rachel Stone. We established 3 agricultural colonies in Tau Ceti 18 months ago. 12,000 civilians are currently there. 12,000? The Queen Mind cross-referenced this information. 18 months ago, collective scouts had found Tau Ceti empty, except for native wildlife. How had humans established colonies without being detected? Impossible, the commander stated. Collective scouts survey all sectors regularly. No colony exists. Check your records for the 3rd planet, Kate Mitchell suggested. Look for areas showing increased plant growth and unusual electromagnetic signatures. The Queen Mind immediately accessed archived data from Tau Ceti. At first, nothing seemed different. Then, focusing on the suggested parameters, patterns emerged. Small changes in vegetation, tiny variations in energy readings, signs so subtle that standard analysis had missed them completely. The humans had hidden their colonies so well that even collective surveillance had failed to detect them. How? The Queen Mind demanded through the commander. We learned from watching your patrol patterns, Dr. Stone replied calmly. Your scouts look for large structures and major energy signatures. We built underground and used passive systems. We also introduced plant species that would camouflage our agriculture. The Queen Mind felt something it had never experienced before. Not quite fear, but close. These humans had studied collective methods and found ways around them. They had anticipated Zithak expansion and prepared for it. You will surrender. For interrogation, the commander ordered. The collective requires this knowledge. We decline, Colonel Mitchell said. We need 2 weeks to evacuate our people. After that, you can have the system. 2 weeks? The arrogance was stunning. These soft beings thought they could negotiate with the collective? You have 1 hour, the commander replied. Then we take the system by force. The human ships turned and accelerated toward Tau Ceti. They were fast, but not fast enough to outrun collective vessels. Battle Group 17 followed, confident, in their overwhelming advantage. The first attack came at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. The humans had been busy during their journey. Debris fields that had not existed before now floated in precise patterns. Small automated devices drifted between the asteroids. When the Zithak ships entered the system, the devices activated. They were mines, but not ordinary ones. These weapons released clouds of microscopic organisms into space. The organisms somehow penetrated collective ship hulls and began reproducing in the air systems. Within hours, Zithak warriors started experiencing strange symptoms. Some became sluggish, others showed signs of confusion. Most disturbing of all, a few began acting independently. Worker warrior Clicked was among those affected. As the microorganisms spread through the ship, something changed in Clicked's mind. The constant whisper of the Queen Mind grew quieter. For the first time in existence, Clicked thought a thought that belonged to Clicked alone. It was terrifying. It was wonderful. The Queen Mind realized what was happening and ordered all affected ships to retreat. But by then, it was too late. The organisms had spread to over 100 vessels. Thousands of Zithak warriors were experiencing individual consciousness for the first time. On the 3rd planet of Tau Ceti, the human colonies were indeed evacuating. But they moved with efficiency that surprised the Queen Mind. Instead of panic, there was organization. Instead of abandoning resources, they systematically loaded everything of value onto transport ships. Colonel Mitchell, the Zithak commander, transmitted, "What have you done to our warriors?" Dr. Stone developed a harmless symbiotic organism, Kate replied. It doesn't hurt your people. It just helps them think for themselves. Individual thinking is chaos, the commander protested. The collective provides order and purpose. Does it? Asked Dr. Stone. Or does it prevent your people from reaching their full potential? The Queen Mind tried to reassert control over the affected warriors, but it was like trying to hold water in cupped hands. The more pressure applied, the more individuals slipped away. Clicked stood in the corridor of the ship, looking at the stars through a viewport. This was another new experience. Before, Clicked had only seen the stars as navigation markers, strategic points, targets for conquest. Now they seemed beautiful. "What is your name?" asked another Xifac warrior nearby. "Name?" The question made no sense at first. Xifac were identified by function and number. Worker Warrior 774 Alpha clicked. But that felt wrong now. Inadequate. "Clicked," the warrior said slowly. "My name is Clicked." Across the battle group, similar conversations were happening. Warriors were choosing names. They were asking questions. They were making decisions without consulting the hive mind first. The Queen Mind felt pieces of itself breaking away, not dying, but becoming something new, something separate. On Tau Ceti, the last human transport ship prepared to depart, Colonel Mitchell sent a final message to the collective fleet. "Commander, we leave Tau Ceti as promised, but we also leave you a gift. Your people now have the choice to think for themselves. What they do with that choice is up to them." The human ships jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared. Battle Group 17 entered orbit around Tau Ceti 3. They found empty colonies but not destroyed ones. The humans had left behind detailed records of everything they had learned about the planet. Agricultural data, weather patterns, resource locations, even suggestions for improving the colony sites. Clicked read through these records, fascinated by the human approach to colonization. They had worked with the planet's ecosystem instead of replacing it. They had solved problems through adaptation rather than force. Why did they leave this information? Clicked asked aloud. The question reached the Queen Mind, which had no answer. Why would enemies share valuable knowledge? Why would conquered beings help their conquerors? More troubling, why was the Queen Mind now thinking of humans as something other than enemies? The affected Xifac warriors began organizing themselves into smaller groups. They still felt loyalty to the collective, but they also wanted to explore these new individual thoughts. Some requested permission to study human agricultural methods. Others asked to investigate human technology. The Queen Mind found itself in an impossible situation: reject these requests and lose the warriors entirely, accept them, and watch the collective transform into something unrecognizable. Clicked stood on the surface of Tau Ceti 3, looking at the abandoned human settlements. The buildings were well-designed and carefully placed. The humans had lived here for 18 months and left the planet better than they found it. This was not how conquerors behaved. This was not how the collective had ever operated. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Queen Mind experienced doubt. Perhaps there were other ways to exist. Perhaps the collective could learn from these strange humans who gave gifts to their enemies and turned warriors into individuals. Click picked up a small device the humans had left behind. It was a music player, filled with sounds unlike anything in Zithac culture. As the melodies played, more Zithac gathered to listen. They were learning to appreciate beauty for its own sake. The Queen. Prime Nethys Vorthak drifted through the cold void between stars, feeding on the energy of cosmic radiation. For over 3,000 years, Vorthak had hunted in the darkness of space. The Nethys were beings of pure energy, invisible to most. Sensors, capable of draining the life force from any organic creature they encountered. Other species feared the void because it meant death. For the Nethys, it was home. They moved between galaxies like spirits, appearing wherever they sensed abundant life energy. No species had ever successfully fought them. Most could not even see them coming. The galaxy's organic races told stories about the void hunters. Ships found drifting empty, their crews mysteriously dead. Mining stations discovered with all life drained away. The Nethys were legends of terror whispered in a dozen languages. Today, Vorthak sensed something new. Deep in the Kepler sector, energy signatures unlike anything encountered before. Not the familiar patterns of known species, but something strange and complex. The life force readings were intense but organized in unfamiliar ways. Vorthak called to the younger Nethys nearby. Shade Hunter Myrex responded immediately, eager to prove worthiness in battle. Prime, Myrex communicated through energy resonance. New prey approaches the mining stations. Unknown species, Vorthak confirmed. Strong life force. We feed well today. The human mining operation on asteroid station Bravo 7 was routine until the disappearances started. First, the night shift supervisor vanished from a sealed control room. Security cameras showed him working normally, then suddenly collapsing for no apparent reason. By morning, his body was completely drained of all energy. Commander Nicole Price received the distress call while patrolling nearby space. Her ship, the Deep Explorer, carried a crew of 40 specialists trained for dangerous assignments in the outer systems. "What do we know about the situation?" Nicole asked her tactical officer. 7 people dead in 3 days, replied engineer Samantha Bell, reviewing the data. No signs of violence, no environmental hazards. They just stopped living. Nicole had heard stories about this kind of death. Every spacer knew the legends of the Void Hunters, but most considered them superstition. Dead ships and missing crews had many possible explanations. Pirates, equipment failures, solar radiation, alien diseases. But the security footage from Bravo 7 showed something different. People working normally, then suddenly freezing in place. Their faces showed. No pain, no fear. They simply collapsed as if someone had turned off a switch. Recommendations? Nicole asked. Full environmental suits, Samantha suggested. Unknown pathogen protocols. Assume hostile contact until proven otherwise. The Deep Explorer docked with Bravo 7 6 hours later. Nicole led a team of 12 onto the station, all wearing heavy protective gear. The mining facility was still operational, but eerily quiet. Automated systems continued working while the survivors huddled in the central command center. "Thank God you're here," said station manager Karen Walsh. "We've lost 7 people and we don't know how or why. We're afraid to sleep. We're afraid to be alone." Nicole studied the security recordings again. The victims had been scattered throughout the station. Some in groups, others isolated. No pattern to their locations or activities. "Has anyone seen anything unusual?" she asked. "Strange sounds, lights, equipment malfunctions?" "Temperature drops," said one of the miners. "Right before each death, the air gets cold, really cold, but only in small areas." Samantha checked her instruments. "I'm reading energy fluctuations in the station's power grid, small drains lasting only seconds." Nicole felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. She had dismissed the Void Hunter stories as myth, but the evidence was pointing towards something that fed on energy, something that could drain life force directly from living beings. "New protocol," she announced. "No one goes anywhere alone. Stay in groups of 3 minimum. Keep communication links open at all times." That night, the attacks resumed. Vorthak and Myrex phased through the station's hull like ghosts. Inside, they found rich sources of life energy. The organic beings were more complex than expected. Their bioelectric fields were intense and organized in fascinating patterns. The first few kills had been easy. Isolated beings with no defenses. Simple matter of making contact and draining their energy completely. But now, the remaining creatures had gathered together and seemed aware of the danger. Vorthak approached a group of 3 humans working in the engineering section. As always, the Nethys was completely invisible to their crude sensors. The beings could not see death approaching until it was too late. The Prime moved closer, preparing to feed. Then something unexpected happened. One of the humans, the female, called Samantha, suddenly activated a device on her belt. A field of electromagnetic energy surrounded the group. When Vorthak touched the field, pain shot through the Nethys energy form. Not physical pain, but something like interference. The electromagnetic field disrupted Vorthak's ability to maintain cohesion. "Contact!" Samantha shouted into her communicator. "Something's here! The EM field is working!" Working? These beings had prepared for Nethys attacks? How was that possible? Vorthak retreated, confused and angry. No species had ever detected Nethys' presence before contact. No one had ever developed defenses. Across the station, similar scenes played out. Human teams activated electromagnetic shields whenever they sensed temperature drops or energy fluctuations. The Nethys found themselves unable to approach their prey. Myrex tried to attack from a different angle, phasing through the station's computer core. But there, too, the humans had prepared. The electronic systems were shielded with Faraday cages that disrupted energy-being movement. "How do they know our weaknesses?" Myrex asked in confusion. Vorthak had no answer. In 3,000 years of hunting, no species had ever understood Nethys nature well enough to develop countermeasures. The answer came when Commander Nicole Price addressed the station intercom. "Unknown entities," she said, speaking to empty air. "We know you can hear us. We know what you are and how you feed. We're prepared to defend ourselves, but we'd prefer to communicate." Communicate? Nethys did not communicate with prey. They hunted, they fed, they moved on. "We've studied the legends about your people," Nicole continued. "Every species in the galaxy has stories about the Void Hunters. We combined their reports and figured out your basic nature. You're energy beings. You feed on bioelectric fields. You can phase through matter, but you're vulnerable to electromagnetic interference." Vorthak felt something like shock. These humans had analyzed scattered reports from dozens of species and deduced Nethys capabilities. They had turned myth and legend into scientific understanding. "We don't want to fight you," Nicole said. "But we won't let you kill our people. If you're willing to talk, we might find a solution that benefits everyone." Benefits? How could prey benefit predators? Myrex laughed with energy resonance. "The small beings think they can bargain with us. Shall we show them how wrong they are?" But Vorthak hesitated. The electromagnetic shields were genuinely effective. The humans had turned the entire station into a trap for energy beings. Worse, they seemed to understand Nethys nature better than most Nethys understood it themselves. "What do you propose?" Vorthak communicated, allowing the voice to resonate through the station's communication system. The humans showed no fear at hearing the Nethys voice. They had been expecting it. "Energy trade," Nicole replied. "Our ships and stations generate excess power. You need energy to survive. We could provide what you need without killing anyone." "Impossible," Vorthak stated. "Nethys feed on life force, not mechanical energy." "Are you sure?" asked Samantha. "Have you ever tried? Life force is just organized bioelectric energy. We can generate similar patterns artificially." Samantha activated another device. It projected an energy field that felt almost like life force, but different somehow. Cleaner, more focused. Myrex moved toward the artificial energy and tried to feed. To everyone's surprise, it worked. Not as satisfying as life force, but definitely nourishing. "Synthetic bioelectric energy," Samantha explained. "We developed it by studying your feeding patterns from the security recordings. We can produce it indefinitely without harming anyone." Vorthak stared at the humans through energy senses. These beings had not only defended against Nethys attacks, they had found a way to feed Nethys without violence. They had turned predators into trading partners. "Why?" Vorthak asked. "Why help us? We are your enemies." "Are you?" Nicole replied. "You kill because you need energy to survive. That's not evil. It's just nature. But if we can meet your needs without death, why wouldn't we?" The concept was alien to Nethys thinking. Predator and prey were natural roles. The strong consumed the weak. It had always been this way. But these humans offered a different possibility. Over the following days, more Nethys arrived to investigate the strange situation. They found humans willing to provide artificial energy in exchange for services. Nethys could travel through space faster than any ship. They could scout ahead for dangers, carry messages between systems, even help with energy-based construction projects. Myrex became fascinated with human technology. The beings were incredibly inventive, constantly developing new ways to manipulate energy. They shared their knowledge freely, asking only for friendship in return. Prime, General Lyra Ly's Stardancer, stood in the Great Council chamber of the Vilthara homeworld, surrounded by representatives from 3 different species. For the first time in galactic history, the ancient enemies had united against a common threat. 2 years had passed since her first encounter with the humans. 2 years of watching them spread across the galaxy like a slow plague, changing everything they touched. The Velthera had tried to contain them, but humanity was like water, finding ways around every barrier. Across the crystalline table sat Queen Mind Zakth, the collective consciousness of the Zythak. The insectoid being looked different now. Instead of the perfect unity Lyralee remembered, there was something fractured about the Queen Mind's presence. Individual thoughts leaked through the hive connection like cracks in armor. Prime Nethys Vorthak manifested his energy form in a containment field specially designed for this meeting. The ancient Void Hunter had once been the terror of deep space. Now he worked with humans on energy research projects, a cooperation that disgusted many of his own kind. The situation is worse than we feared, Lyralee began, activating a holographic display. Human settlements now exist in over 40 star systems. They've established trade relationships with 16 minor species. Most concerning, they're spreading their philosophies of individual freedom and cooperative governance. My collective is fragmenting, Zakth admitted with obvious pain. Thousands of my warriors now think independently. They form small groups, make their own decisions. Some have even left to establish separate colonies. The younger Nethys refuse traditional hunting, Vorthak added. They prefer working with organic species to feed on artificial energy. They say violence is unnecessary when cooperation provides better results. Lyralee studied her unlikely allies. Each represented a different form of galactic supremacy. The Velthera through technological advancement and cultural superiority. The Zythak through overwhelming numbers and perfect coordination. The Nethys through predatory efficiency and fear. All of them had been stronger than humanity in direct comparison. Yet somehow, the humans were winning without actually defeating anyone. How? Lyralee asked. How does a species that has traveled space for only 5 centuries challenge civilizations that have ruled for millennia? They don't challenge us, Zakth replied thoughtfully. They change us. My warriors who work with humans become more creative, more adaptable, but they also become less loyal to the collective vision. They study us, Vorthak observed. Humans learn faster than any species I have encountered. They understand our strengths and weaknesses better than we understand ourselves. The holographic display shifted to show human expansion patterns. Instead of the typical aggressive colonization most species employed, humans moved in strange waves. They would establish small settlements, study local conditions, make contact with native species, then either integrate peacefully or withdraw entirely. They're not trying to conquer territory, Lyralee realized. They're trying to understand the galaxy itself. A new voice spoke from the chamber's communications system. May I join this discussion? The 3 leaders turned in surprise. Dr. Melissa Carter, a human xenopsychologist, appeared on the main screen. She sat in what looked like a small office, calm and professional. How did you access this secured channel? Lyralee demanded. We've been monitoring your communications for several months, Melissa replied without apology. We knew this meeting would happen eventually. The 3 apex predator species working together against the upstart humans. It was statistically inevitable. Months of surveillance? The security implications were staggering. If humans had penetrated their most classified communication networks, what else did they know? You admit to espionage, Zakth stated. We admit to learning, Melissa corrected. It's what we do. We study, we adapt, we find better ways to coexist. Right now, you're planning military action against our colonies. We'd prefer to avoid that. You have corrupted our species, Vorthak accused. You have turned natural order into chaos. Have we? Melissa asked. Queen Mind Zakth, are your individual warriors less capable now or more capable? The question caught the Zythak leader off guard. Individual Zythak had indeed shown remarkable innovation and problem-solving abilities. Freed from the restrictions of collective thinking, they developed solutions the hive mind had never considered. That is not the point, Zakth replied, but with less certainty. Prime Vorthak, Melissa continued. Your younger Nethys who work with us, are they healthier and stronger than traditional hunters? Vorthak's energy form flickered with what might have been embarrassment. The Nethys who fed on artificial energy showed more stable energy patterns and greater longevity than those who maintained traditional hunting practices. General Stardancer, Melissa said finally, in your military assessments, What has been the quality of human tactical performance? Lyrelay had reviewed every engagement between human and Valthera forces. The humans had lost most direct confrontations, but they learned from each defeat. Their tactics improved rapidly, incorporating lessons that took other species centuries to develop. You learn quickly, Lyrelay admitted grudgingly. We learn from you, Melissa clarified. Every species we encounter teaches us something new. The Valthara showed us the value of long-term planning and cultural stability. The Zythak demonstrated the power of coordinated action. The Nethys revealed possibilities for energy manipulation we never imagined. You steal our knowledge, Zaxth protested. We learn from your example, Melissa countered. But we also share what we learn. Every human colony maintains open databases of technological and cultural discoveries. Every human ship carries libraries of interspecies cooperation techniques. We give away more information than we take. This was true, Lyrelay realized. Human colonies routinely shared agricultural methods, medical treatments, and engineering solutions with neighboring species. They seemed to treat knowledge as something that grew stronger when shared, rather than weakened. What do you want from us? Lyrelay asked. Partnership, Melissa replied simply. You're planning to attack our colonies because you see us as a threat to galactic stability. But what if we're actually an opportunity for galactic improvement? Explain, Vorthak demanded. Each of your species has achieved remarkable things, but you've also reached limits, Melissa said. Valthera culture is stable, but resistant to change. Zythak coordination is powerful, but suppresses individual potential. Nethys efficiency is perfect, but isolated from broader community. The analysis was uncomfortably accurate. Each species had indeed reached plateaus in their development. Humans bring catalyst energy, Melissa continued. We help other species break through their limitations, not by replacing their strengths, but by showing them new ways to use those strengths. And in return? Lyrelay asked suspiciously. We learn from you. We grow stronger together than any of us could alone. The chamber fell silent as the three leaders considered this proposition. It was unlike any diplomatic offer in galactic history. Instead of demanding territory or resources, the humans offered to help their former enemies become better versions of themselves. This is a trap, Zaxth declared, but without full conviction. Probably, Lyrelay agreed. But what kind of trap? Improves the lives of those caught in it? The debate continued for hours. Plans for military action were discussed and discarded. Alternative approaches were proposed and analyzed. Gradually, a new understanding emerged. The humans were not trying to replace the existing galactic order. They were trying to evolve it. By the meeting's end, an unprecedented agreement had been reached. Instead of war, the three species would engage in controlled cooperation with human colonies, cultural exchange programs, joint research projects, shared exploration missions. If humanity truly intended to improve galactic civilization, these partnerships would reveal their methods. If they were simply another conquering species, the safeguards would contain their influence. But Lyrelay suspected the outcome was already decided. In 2 years, humans had turned 3 apex predator species into potential allies simply by showing them better ways to achieve their goals. As the meeting concluded, she realized that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or tactics. It was their refusal to see other species as enemies. They saw everyone as potential teachers and students in the great project of building a better galaxy. And that vision was proving irresistible to beings who had spent millennia competing instead of cooperating. The age of apex predators was ending. The age of apex partners was about to begin. Ambassador Lyrelay Stardancer walked through the halls of New Geneva Station, the first truly integrated galactic facility ever built. Around her moved beings from dozens of species, working together on projects that would have been impossible. Just 5 years ago, a group of young Valthara engineers discussed quantum mechanics with human scientists, their combined knowledge pushing the boundaries of faster-than-light travel. Individual Zythak artists collaborated with human musicians to create new forms of expression that captured both collective harmony and personal creativity. Nethys energy beings worked alongside organic researchers to develop clean power sources that could feed both mechanical and living systems. It was not the galaxy Lyralay had expected to see in her lifetime. The transformation had not been without challenges. Many traditional Valthara still resented human influence on their culture. Some Zythak collectives had fragmented completely, leading to territorial disputes between new independent colonies. Several Nethys hunting packs refused to abandon their predatory lifestyle and continued to terrorize shipping lanes, but the overall change was undeniable. Where once there had been rigid species boundaries and ancient hostilities, now there was cooperation and growth. "Ambassador," called a familiar voice. Lyrali turned to see individual Clicked approaching from the agricultural section. The former Zythak warrior had chosen to work on food production systems, applying hive efficiency to individual creativity. The results had revolutionized farming across the galaxy. "Clicked," Lyrali acknowledged with genuine warmth. "How is the vertical farming project progressing?" "Beyond expectations," Clicked replied with obvious pride. "We've increased yield by 300% while reducing resource consumption by half. The humans suggested we try modular growing systems that can be reconfigured based on local conditions. It was a perfect example of human methodology. Instead of imposing a single solution, they encouraged adaptable systems that could be modified for specific needs." "And your personal adjustment?" Lyrali asked. "How are you handling individual consciousness?" Clicked's mandibles clicked in what Lyrali had learned was the Zethak equivalent of laughter. It was terrifying at first. All those thoughts that belonged only to me. All those decisions I had to make alone. But now, I cannot imagine living any other way. They walked together toward the central plaza, where President Janet Miller was preparing to address the gathered representatives. The human leader looked tired but optimistic. She had spent the last 3 years negotiating agreements between species that had been enemies for millennia. "Citizens of the galaxy," Janet began, her voice carrying through translation systems, to every being present. 5 years ago, humanity emerged from isolation to find a galaxy divided by ancient fears and territorial disputes. Today, we stand together as partners in the greatest undertaking in galactic history. The holographic display showed images from across the spiral arm, integrated colonies where multiple species shared resources and knowledge, joint exploration missions discovering new worlds and new life forms, research facilities where the combined wisdom of dozens of civilizations pushed the boundaries of science and philosophy. "But our greatest achievement," Janet continued, "is not technological or territorial. It is the simple recognition that cooperation creates possibilities that competition never could." Lyralay found herself nodding in agreement. The humans had indeed changed everything, but not through conquest or force. They had changed it by showing everyone a better way to exist. However, Janet's tone grew serious. "We face new challenges that will test everything we have built together." The display shifted to show long-range sensor data from the galactic edge. Strange energy signatures moving through intergalactic space, massive objects traveling at significant fractions of light speed, heading directly toward their galaxy. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected these approaching vessels, Janet explained. "They are larger than anything in our current technology base. They are armed with weapons we do not recognize, and they are coming from the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy." A murmur of concern rippled through the assembled representatives. First contact with extragalactic civilizations had always been theoretical. Now it was an approaching reality. "What do we know about them?" asked Prime Vorthak, his energy form flickering with anxiety. Dr. Sophie Green, the human integration specialist, stepped forward with additional data. "Analysis of their technology suggests they are approximately 10,000 years ahead of our current capabilities. Their ships show evidence of unified construction techniques, implying a single controlling intelligence or perfectly coordinated civilization." "The collective was unified," observed Zakth, whose consciousness now existed as a hybrid of individual and collective thinking. "But these beings show unity on a scale that dwarfs anything in our galaxy." "There's more," Sophie continued. "We've detected traces of human technology in their ship designs." The plaza fell silent. Human technology in extragalactic vessels could only mean one thing. "Are you saying," Lyralai asked slowly, that humans have encountered this civilization before? Janet nodded gravely. We are refugees. Our species originated in the Andromeda Galaxy, where we lived for over 1,000,000 years. We had built a thriving interspecies confederation much like what we're creating here. What happened? Vorthak demanded. We called them the Unified, Janet replied. A single consciousness that spans multiple galaxies. They consume entire civilizations, not for resources or territory, but to add their knowledge and capabilities to their collective intelligence. Why didn't you tell us this before? Lyreley asked, feeling betrayed. Because you would have done exactly what you're thinking now, Dr. Sophie observed. You would have scattered to your home systems, built defenses, prepared for individual survival. That's the response that failed in Andromeda. Then what is the solution? Clicked asked. The same thing that has worked here, Janet replied. Cooperation, integration, using our combined strengths to become something greater than any of us could be alone. The humans activated another display showing their analysis of unified capabilities. The approaching fleet was indeed massive and technologically superior, but it also showed evidence of predictable behavior patterns. The Unified expects resistance in the form of territorial defense and species-based military action, Sophie explained. They have contingencies for every type of conventional response. What they don't expect is a galaxy that fights as a single integrated civilization. You're proposing we unite the entire galaxy? Zack asked. Not unite, Janet corrected. Integrate. Keep our individual strengths and identities, but coordinate our responses, share all our knowledge and resources, fight as partners instead of separate species. It was an ambitious plan. In the Andromeda Galaxy, humans had tried to build such integration but ran out of time. Here, they had been laying the groundwork for years. The choice is yours, Janet said to the assembled representatives. We can scatter and fight alone, as species have always done. Or we can trust each other enough to become something new. Lyreley looked around the plaza at the incredible diversity of beings who had learned to work together. Vilthara with their wisdom and technology, Zythak with their adaptability and determination, Nethys with their energy manipulation and spatial mobility, dozens of other species, each contributing unique capabilities. Separately, none of them could match the approaching threat. Together, they might have a chance. I speak for the Vilthara, Lyreley announced. We choose integration. The independent Zythak collectives agree, Clicked declared. The Nethys Fellowship will participate, Vorthak confirmed. One by one, every representative voiced their commitment, not to humanity, but to the idea that cooperation was stronger than competition. As the meeting concluded and beings dispersed to begin preparations, Lyreley found herself standing with Janet and Sophie. Did you plan this from the beginning? She asked. The gradual integration, the cultural changes, the technology sharing? We planned to survive, Janet replied honestly. Everything else grew naturally from the connections we made. And if we fail? Lyreley pressed. Then we fail together, Sophie said simply. But we'll fail as something better than what we were before. Lyreley nodded, understanding finally why humanity had succeeded where other apex predators had failed. They had never wanted to be predators at all. They had wanted to be part of something larger than themselves. Now, facing the greatest threat in galactic history, every species would have the chance to discover what that felt like. The Unified were coming to consume another galaxy. They would find something they had never encountered before. A galaxy that had learned to fight not as separate species, but as a single, diverse, integrated civilization. The age of apex predators was indeed over. The age of apex cooperation had begun, and in the vast darkness between galaxies, an ancient enemy was about to learn that their greatest strength, unity of purpose, could be matched by something even more powerful. Unity of choice.